Good evening, Ms. Lopez and EESL 5500 classmates. The oral research report covers listening and speaking strategies and assessment for EFL teaching. My name's Rosemary Someta. Each of these studies focuses on university level EFL students. My background is in teaching ESL in a nonprofit organization as I helped adults prepare for their U.S. naturalized citizenship test and interview. In addition, I have also taught political science at San Bernardino Valley College for a couple of years. I aspire to teach ESL in the U.S. and EFL abroad in a university setting to students that seek academic and career or employment opportunities where English is spoken. The first article, which was a speaking strategy article, focused on full and partial English medium instruction, best known as EMI. The study was made with 638 second-year undergraduate students from 4 universities in Taiwan. Approximately 51.3 were in a program that had a full English medium instruction, and 48.5 attended a partial EMI institution. All of these students in both formats did express to have high levels of anxiety. So in order to assess the levels, the tool that was used was the Foreign Language Classroom Anxiety Scale, best known as FLCAS. Student speaking strategies were assessed using the Language Strategy Use Survey by Cohen Oxford and Kai. The implications were that the students who had received a full EMI had lower speech anxiety, lower uncertainty in speaking or speech, and also fewer negative feelings towards learning a foreign language. Some of the speaking strategies that were utilized were rehearsal strategies, paraphrasing, and borrowing. The second article, speaking strategy, was focused on concept mapping based flipped approach. This study explored the impact of concept mapping based flipped learning as a learning speaking strategy on learning achievement. 72 EFL learners were assigned to experimental group, and the other 35 were assigned to a control group. There was a pre and post test and also a quasi-experimental design. Instructional approaches remain conventional, causing a deficit in EFL speaking development process. So we not only covered the conventional way of teaching, but also some new and progressive methods. The post-test indicated that concept mapping had indeed a positive and significant influence on the EFL learners' English speaking performance, while also initiating critical thinking awareness and decreasing their speaking anxiety. In addition, the listening and speaking strategy improved students' listening comprehension and speaking skills, which overall did cause or result in a very high level performance. And in addition to that, the conceptualization and formulation of speaking also was very simple. The third article, listening strategy, focused on the relationship between listening strategies and listening proficiency. The article investigated the correlation between listening proficiency levels of a group of Iranian college freshmen and also their listening strategies that they employed. The group was formed of 92 female students majoring in teaching English as a foreign language, And the majority, or I should say all of them, were native speakers of Persian, Farsi, and were not exposed to any English outside of the classroom setting. These students were categorized within the 3 levels of 19 of them being in advanced, 34 intermediate, and the remaining 39 being in a lower intermediate level as far as their proficiency. The authors utilized in this article the listening strategies based by O'Malley and Chamotte, which categorizes the use of metacognitive, cognitive, and socio-affective methods or strategies to help and assist with listening strategies. And interestingly, that is the specific sequencing as to the frequency and the use by these Iranian female students that were at a high or an advanced or intermediate level. As we know, the high frequent use of metacognitive strategies did improve their language learning in general, and also while doing that, also their listening skills, their familiarity with the language itself. As we know, also the metacognitive process involves for the listener to understand the sequencing of conscious actions, to analyze them, and also to complete the tasks that are required, and to appropriately do process what they're listening to, making predictions of tasks and monitoring and evaluating them, and revisiting this process continuously as they further develop in the language. The other article, Speaking Assessment, focused on higher education, tertiary level, of course, and the article mainly focused on instructors' current conception of their perception, of assessment. It included 20 participants that were enrolled in the Higher Institute of Languages in GABES and also the Faculty of Letters and Humanities in Sfax, Tunisia. The performance problems that arose or were identified were learners' anxiety increased as more assessments were being assessed or implemented, also the lack of knowledge from the learner, and the various supports that were given by instructors or teachers to the learners, as well as some sort of a challenge and difficulty in using technology devices that were provided. The implications for this article were that regardless of the assessment that was continuously or constantly being administered, it did serve as a tool to help the students, not only from the teacher's perspective, but also the student's perspective, to help improve their learning process. And with that being said, also boosting their speaking potentials, which means that one of the results was confidence in speaking the language, knowing how to utilize words and phrases and make sentences and better communicate. Though there is, I'm sure, problems in assessment, and these were found, of course, in this article, the oral language evaluation was still significantly beneficial in a classroom setting. The other speaking and listening article was on the traditional assessment model versus a multi-evaluation model. And this study aims on the setting of the framework of multidimensional models in teaching adults English listening and speaking. So it was very important for, in this particular article, for a multi-evaluation model that included self-evaluation, mutual evaluation, which we have come to learn is peer reviews, and also teacher evaluation. This could be through a teacher-student informal type of conference, or also an evaluation on a project that a teacher could give a student, but a multifaceted evaluation model that was utilized. And the participants for this particular case was a total of 25 students that were third grade students from the Beijing International Studies University. Originally, when I started reading this article, I was under the assumption that third grade meant elementary school, but not at all. Third grade meaning a third level, third year class university student. The implications that were found were that learning motivation of adults gradually changed from external factors driven to internal factors driven. This means that there was a transformation from having to learn it because you are in class to a personal interest and a self-initiated and motivated type of interest in learning the language. The study also offered suggestions as to how to teach English in China, the country, of course. And I wanted to share an example of a simplified 4-step activity, or 4 different activities that I should say, that are utilized to help students feel a little bit better with dealing with their own mistakes, and at the same time being open to feedback from either their peers or their teacher. One of the activities was a warm-up for students to start introducing themselves, who they are about, and this could be utilized with a poster. Also filling in the blanks, incomplete sentences, or music could be used in this case. In addition to that, activity 3, where students elaborate as to what is the challenge or what's preventing them from listening correctly or further develop their listening skill when it comes to learning a foreign language, as well as pairing up the students or designing certain small groups of students so that they could work together and collectively so that they learn from each other. In conclusion, as far as speaking strategies, we learned that speaking produces a high level of anxiety in students of all levels, including myself, as I am sharing this presentation with all of you. In addition to that, we learned that concept mapping strategy improves English EFL learners' English speaking performance, their critical thinking awareness, and also decreases any anxiety that they may experience. Listening strategies, we learned that listening comprehension strategies need to be introduced, explained, demonstrated, and practiced by the teacher with all of their students. And this would be from advanced, intermediate to beginners or low-level students, regardless. As well as the importance of using metacognitive, cognitive, and socioaffective listening strategies that constantly improve language learning in general for all students, whether this is in an ESL course or an EFL course. And finally, assessment, which would be non-conventional teaching approaches, being a bit more progressive, having our teachers be prepared and well-equipped to teach EFL to any student at any age or level, and as well as the importance of utilizing assessment to help the student, and also to be aware of how you need to teach, what you need to teach in the classroom, but at the same time, how that multi-evaluation serves and helps the student in their learning process, as well as their perception in how they go about learning a new language, and how their speaking and listening skills also further advance. Here's my reference sheet. And I would like to thank all of you for listening to my presentation. I really appreciate you doing so, and I look forward to hearing and listening to your feedback.